Okay, so now that we've basically gone through and we've compacted our avatar down to one mesh as well as only two materials, we're going to go ahead and actually get it working. So when we have actually done this, as you notice, there are a lot of missing parts. These missing parts can break, and so it's very important that we actually get this fixed. So our first step is going to be going to our avatar. We're going to go over to our FX layer and we're going to go and tag everything we think would be broken. So first example would be our outfits here. As you can see, all of our outfits are a different object and they're not changed here. So it would be a smart decision to go ahead and disable these. So all of the outfits. Next, we're going to go see our hair is probably broken. So go ahead and fix the hair. And then the piercings over here will also probably be broken. So we're going to disable those. And if we look through everything else, that looks to be about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer. I'm going to call this BlendTree. And we're going to use a decently advanced technique, but this is going to be very good in the future. So I will be going over this in depth at a later point. But to get started, basically, we're going to go to parameters. We're going to create a float here. We're going to call it state. And as you can see, we have our float state here. Now, I'm also going to go through and quickly delete all of the parameters that are to parts that are broken or that we won't need. So quickly go through. We have our hairs style toggles here. And that as well. And then I will also quickly disable the emission map. We will also I'll show you how to fix that at a later time as well. So now that we have that done, we have our blend tree at the top here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do right click, create new, and then we're going to create a new blend tree. And we're going to double click this to open. So our first step is going to be making sure this is a 1D. We're going to go to the parameter and we're going to set it to state. So to basically explain this, this blend tree right here is going to act like one of these guys right here. So picture the blend tree as this whole thing. So we're going to first make a one for the hair. So double click here. We're going to head over here. We're going to add a new blend tree. And I'm going to name this blend tree hair. So this will be our hair blend tree here. So let's get started with making those animations. So first step is we're going to click on our avatar here. We're going to head over, down, and we're going to find where we have our FX layer located. So it's going to be right here for me. I'm going to quickly delete these two and make a new one. So create animation controller, and we're going to call this temp since we're only going to be using this for a short time. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to take this temp and we're going to go to our avatar and we're just going to drag it at the top here. So what this allows us to do is if we head over to animation, we should now be able to hit this create button and now we can create animations. I'm going to quickly delete these animations that I made earlier and I'm going to make them from scratch for you. So we're going to go hair 1 and we're going to call it hair 1 on. So this will be for our first hairstyle being on. And we're going to quickly go ahead and record that. So hit the record button, click on the body. We're going to hit down the blend shapes. And if we scroll down, you should see we have hair 1 and hair 2. So we're going to make sure we set hair 2 to removed and hair 1 to on. And as you can see, our hair 1 is on. And then all we're going to need to do is highlight this, hit Control C, head over here. We're going to do hair 2 on. We're going to hit Control V to paste it, and then we're just going to flip the numbers around. So now we basically have our hair on and hair off animations for the two different types. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do the two different types of styles. So hair B for hair animation style B, hit record. We're going to go through our list. It should be right here, style B. We're going to set this to 100, and we're going to set C to 0. And then same thing, create a new one, hair C, hit record, and we're going to set C to 100 and set B to 0. So with all of those done, I'm going to show you how to add these. So our first step is going to be parameters. We're going to go to our parameters. We're going to get rid of the old ones that we don't need anymore. So as you can see, hair B, hairstyle B, we don't need those animations. And we're going to create two bowls here. So the first bowl, we're going to call hairstyle. And then the second bowl we're going to create is going to be hair type. So this will be for style B and C, and this will be for the hair type 1 and 2. Now we're going to quickly go over this and see if there's any that we don't need. So we don't need the hairstyle alt here. I'm going to quickly remove that. We don't need the outfits, so I'm going to quickly remove those 3. Okay, and now that that is done, we're going to go to our avatar. We're going to double click on our FX layer. We're going to go to parameters, and we're going to go search for those exact ones over here. Now, if I look correctly, we should have the hairstyle ones. We may have already moved them, and if that is the case, then we've already done that part. Now, all we need to do now is add the other ones. So we're going to go float here, and hair style, and then we're going to create another float, and this one is going to be hair type. One thing important is you have to make sure that these names are the exact same as the names over inside of your parameters here. So as you can see, these names do match up. So that is a good sign. So last step now is in our layer, if we go over to our new blend tree here, double open it, and we have our hair state, what we can do is we can hit plus, new blend tree, new blend tree. We're going to set this to direct, and we're also going to send this one to direct. Now that that is done, we will have our 2 animations here, and we're going to quickly make sure that we have it set to the right ones. So this one's going to be hairstyle, and then this one is going to be hair type. And then we can actually get rid of this par here and just change it to state. So basically, if this is all looking correct, this, we'll quickly set this to 0. This first one here should have your first blend tree for hair type and your state. This is basically going to be mimicking a layer as if it's called hair. And then inside of this layer, we're going to have our 2 blend trees. We're going to set these to also direct. And then we're going to add 2 motion fields to each one, corresponding to our 2 motion fields and our animations. So over to assets, and you can see our animations down here. So I'm going to click on our first one. And so this one I'm going to call hairstyle. And this one is going to be called hair type. And then we're going to drag the respective animations into there. So for this, hair type is going to be our hair 1 on, and then our hair 2 on, and then the hairstyle will be hair B and hair C. Now what we want to do when we have that done is you can see this slider here is set to the wrong thing, and we're going to quickly also set this to the right one. So these will also be state. And then here we want to set these to the animations that we want. So if we're doing hairstyle here, we're going to set them to hairstyle here. And for this one, we're doing hair type. So we want to set these to hair type. Now, you will notice that this is a direct tree. This is a direct tree as well. And then these ones will need to be 1D trees. So this will actually be how it changes between either hairstyle C or hairstyle B. And then we're going to change the state, hairstyle, hair type. So if everything here is done correctly, if you want to quickly look over it, we have the state selected into this first blend tree. We have the hairs, and then we have the hairstyle and hair type, and then we have the hair type animator or parameter up here, and hairstyle parameter up here. And then we have all of our hair types that we can switch between. So with that all done, we will set our state to 1. We'll go over to parameters. We'll make sure that our state is also 1 in here. And then we're going to go over to our avatar. We're going to go over to the main menu. we're going to go over to the hair and accessories. We're going to make sure that we have our A2 selected. Now we have our hair types. So for hair A, it's going to be a toggle. We're going to set it to hair type, and we're going to have it as enabled. And then over here, we're going to have hair type again, and we're going to set this as disabled for hair B. So this will switch between our two hair types. And then I'm going to quickly remove this one since we don't need it. And then the hairstyle alt, what we can do is we can actually change this from a radial puppet to a toggle. And then we can change the parameter to hairstyle. And we'll just put a single one where it turns the hairstyle on. And then quickly going to go back to the parameters and make sure that hairstyle by default should be turned off. So if everything is done correctly, when we load up the gesture manager and go over to our avatar, we will have one hairstyle on. If we go over to here and select hairstyle B, it will switch between them, as you can see. And then if we want to change the alt mode, we would select the alt mode. And then as you can see between the hairstyles, the alt mode changes each of the hairstyles. So we've now successfully incorporated and added the hair back to our avatar. And then again, to just double check, we have the fizz bones for the hair, so they move slightly. And we have now successfully fixed the hair. So this is basically exactly what we're going to do. We're going to rinse and repeat this for the clothing. It's going to be following the exact same idea of doing the blend tree. Okay, and now we're going to be working on the clothes. So for the clothes section, we're going to head over to our same place, click on the avatar, double click on the FX layer, and then we will go over to our blend tree that we made, and we are going to create the new blend tree. And of course, this one is going to be called clothing. So again, make sure that we have this set to state and make sure that this guy is set to direct. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a blend tree for each of the three outfits. So we have outfit A, outfit B, and outfit C. So with each of these outfits, we're also going to want to make sure that we have a parameter for each. So we deleted them earlier, so we can create a new one, float, and that one's going to be called outfit A. And then we're going to basically rinse and repeat float, and then call that one outfit B, and then create another float and call this one outfit C. So with that done, what we can actually do is, since it's a directory, set these all to state again. And then we're going to give each one of these a double motion field. So this is basically for an on and off animation. So this will be toggling each separate part of the outfits. So now that we have this set up ready for the animations, we're going to go and actually make them. So we're going to select our avatar again. We're going to go to the animation tab, create a new animation. And of course, we're going to call it outfit A on. And then basically, we're going to hit record. We're going to go to what we want it to be. So I believe for this example, I will quickly check the original avatar just to make sure. And if I click on outfit A, this is going to be basically our stockings and stuff. So that's what we should make it over here. So outfit A, hit record, go to body, scroll down. And if we want it to be enabled, we will set those. Quickly get rid of the choker one since that will be a separate thing. And then we hit stop record. And basically all we need to do now is go to where we found this animation and we can duplicate the animation. I'm going to quickly rename mine so that it is off instead. And then all we need to go do is double click on this animation and set these guys to 100. So this is pretty much the exact same process as before. We're going to do this for all three of the outfits. So I'm going to just speed up this little process. Okay, now that that is all completely done, we are going to go to our avatar, go to the FX layer, and then go to the layers, and then we're going to head over to our blend tree at the top again, open it up, and we are going to put these animations in the right spot. So if I go to project and find all of our stuff, we will have the outfit off, outfit A on, select the next one, outfit B off, outfit B on, and then again, select the next one, outfit B off, outfit C on. So we have our 3 animations there. And then for these guys, we're going to make sure that we change this from state to the actual outfits that it's corresponding to, like that. And then quickly, just for ease sake, I'm going to set these all to 0. So with each of these completely done, all we need to do again is go over here, make sure that they are in the parameter list. So they are not actually. So what we can do, outfit A, and then change that to outfit B. And then one last time, outfit C. Now, just to double check, make sure that you have the default off or on, depending on what you do, that you have the thing that will be saved between world joins, and then make sure that you have it synced so other people can see it. So after that is done, we're again going to go to our avatar, go to the menu, we're going to go to where the hair and accessories are, and then in this case, we're going to go to the clothing one, and now we can see all of the different clothing here, and we're going to make sure that we have the right bool set. So if we select this top here, we're going to make sure that we set it to the right parameters, and then outfit A is going to be toggled on, outfit B going to be toggled on, and outfit C toggled on. And then one last time, now that that is done, we should be able to enter play mode. I'm going to quickly toggle that one off. And if we have done this successfully, by default, the clothing should be off. And then if we go over to the hair and accessories and we go ahead and toggle them, as you can see, they are done properly. One thing to note is if we go to our animators, as you can see, the different states, we're going to make sure that we actually have them in the right order. So 0, 1, 100, 0, 100, 0. So yeah, these are in the wrong order. So I'm going to quickly switch those around. So basically, since the blend shape is going to hide it, we're going to set it to 100, which means that it's going to hide it 100%. If, say, this made it appear, you would actually want to set this to 0 instead. But with all of that done now, and again, one last test, as you can see, by default, the clothing is off. And if we go to the clothing, we can actually turn it on and off whenever we want. So we've done that. We've done the hair. We only have the piercings left, as well as we should only be having the final choker right here to do. So I will go ahead and rinse and repeat the same process. Okay, so I basically just went ahead and did the exact same thing as before. So the piercings and the blend tree. For this one, I did the same thing, add blend tree. I grabbed it here, made sure that the parameter type was set to the piercings. I made sure that it was a 1D blend tree. And then I added the remove and add piercings. So same thing for the choker here. And then over in the parameter section, I made the piercing choker and piercing float. And then if we go over to our main avatar here, I went ahead to the parameters and added them here as bools. So again, you need to remember that these don't need to be floats. They can be bools and they will work the same inside of the animator. The only time you may want a float is if you want to be able to adjust between two values. So instead of it just being its biggest or its smallest, if you want it to be a gradual change, that's when you would want to set this to float. But otherwise, for now, bool works fine. And then I went ahead and added it to the menu. So if we enter play mode, and we have our avatar here, and we go ahead and toggle, you can see the hair is fully working. The add piercings is fully working. we now have the different outfits that we can enable and disable, and we can also change the choker. So we have basically finished everything here. We have just one last thing to do, and that is going to be fixing our emissions. So this is something that I touched on in the last episode, where when you optimize the avatar, the tools that you use tend to break your emissions. And again, as an example, if I enable them, nothing happens, nothing really does anything. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to fix this. Our first step is going to be needing some kind of photo editing tool. So for this, I can recommend GIMP or Photoshop. In my case, I'm going to be using Photoshop, so I'm going to start that up. So with Photoshop here, I am going to take our texture and I'm going to drag it into Photoshop. This is basically going to be our texture that we're going to be using our stuff on. And we're going to go ahead and find our emission map. So if I remember correctly, it should be under the body section. And as you can see, we have our two emissions here. And then I can simply drag this in, and then I'm going to want to size this correctly. So I'm going to drag this all the way. Make sure that it connects perfectly there. And then I'm going to quickly zoom in to make sure that it is correct. There we go. Perfect. So we have our emission map here. I'm going to quickly disable this guy under it. And as you can see, it's actually in two parts. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to make sure that I crop it. So I'm only going to get one half of the other one. So I'm going to use a tool like my select tool here. And I'm going to make sure that we square it off so that it is the correct number of pixels. So right there. And then I can hit Control X and Control C and Control V. And now we have it on its own layer. And we basically do the exact same thing to the other side. So what I can do is start from here, start from the other corner. Same thing. I'm going to hold Shift while doing this to basically make it so that it's even on both sides. And I'm going to get it as close as I can. Hit Control C. Make sure I have the right thing selected down here. Hit Control C, hit Control V. And now we have these as separate. So we're going to start with this one. And all we need to do is create a new layer. We're going to set it to a fill tool. We're going to set the fill tool to black. And we're just going to fill it in with black. So this will be our first one here. Hit export, export PNG. We're going to call this transparency 1. And I'm going to make sure that I put it in the right section. So that should be this guy right here, transparency 1. And then I am going to turn that off, turn this one on. And I'm going to make sure I drag this into the corner so it's in the right spot. And then same thing, export PNG. And I'm going to call this transparency 2. So we have our two transparencies done. So we are going to want to add them over here. So we're going to go find where they're located. We're going to highlight and drag them in. Okay, and now with them added over and imported from our Photoshop, we can now actually add these to our avatar. So our first step is going to our avatar, going to body. We're going to find our material here, and we are going to find our emission mask. So we're going to go ahead and drag our first one into the first emission slot. We're going to enable the emission. Now you'll see that nothing has changed so far, and that's actually because we haven't set a strength. So we're going to set it to 0.4, and we're going to set the color all the way to red. So as you can now see, we have the base color as red, and if we hit the override, instead of it being blended in with the base color, it's actually going to make it a thick color. So this is completely preference. If you want it to blend in, you can keep this turned off. If you want it to override, keep it turned on. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to go to color adjust, enable it, set the saturation to 1. And then we're going to actually use this later. So I'll show you exactly what we're going to do. I went ahead and cheated and basically did the exact same process for the second animation here. So now that that is done, we can actually go ahead and disable both, and then we can go ahead and start animating these. So again, same thing. We're going to click on our avatar, scroll up to the temp section. We're going to make sure that we are in the animation tab, and we are going to create a new animation. We're going to call this M1 on. So this will be our first emission, and we're going to have it turned on. So we're going to head over here, set this as on, and then stop recording. And then I'm just going to hit Control C, and then create M1 off. Same thing, hit Control V, set it to 0 or off, and then I'm going to do that over to M2 on. And again, same kind of thing. Gonna go ahead, animate that, stop recording, Control C, create it again. And then set it to off. Okay, so now that we have the animations done, what we're going to do now is we're going to make the saturation slider, and we're going to make the brightness or the hue shift slider. So for this, we're going to do hue shift 0, hit record. We're going to go to the body. We're going to go to both the emissions, and we're going to set the hue shift to 0 in this case. So now that is done, we can highlight them, Control C, hue shift 1, hit Control V, set these both to 1, and then now we're going to do the saturation. So sat 0, hit the record. We're going to put the sat to 0, so I'm going to quickly make sure that it's set to 0 in both of these cases. Stop recording, highlight, Control C, create a new one, sat 1, paste, and then we're going to set the saturations. We, I believe, can set it to a higher number. For this, I'm going to go 3 as the max. So set both of these to 3 as their max. And then now that that is done, we can actually go ahead and add these. So same process as before. We're going to go to our scene, click on our avatar. We're going to scroll down to our FX layer. We're going to go to parameters, and we're going to make 2 things. We're going to go M1. We're going to do another. That is going to be M2. So this is for the emission 1, emission 2. We're going to do another float. This one's going to be called sat for saturation. And then another float for hue. So with all of these done, we're going to do the same thing over to our avatar. So select the avatar, scroll down. We should see the parameters. And then we're basically going to want to go ahead and make our new parameters. So we have M1, M2. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we want these ones to be floats since we want to change the value between 2 points. So hue and sat, and these are going to be basically the floats so that we can actually adjust it on the fly. And these ones are just going to be toggles where it'll turn it on and off. So with that now done, if we head over to the animator, head over to layers, go to blend tree, double click. We're going to go to the blend tree again, create a new blend tree. We're going to call this one Emission. And then we're going to make sure that we have our animations, which again, we made them earlier, so we do. We want to create 4 blend trees for this one, which is quite a lot, but it is the amount we will need. And we're going to make sure that this is set to a direct. So remember, if they have animations coming off, they're going to be 1D. If they have blend trees going off, they're going to be direct. So with these, we have the state. We're going to set each one of these to state. And then we're going to make sure we label them. So this is M1. This one is M2. This one is going to be saturation. and this one is going to be hue. And then as last time, we're going to be putting 2 motion fields in each section. And then we are going to put them in. So M1, and this one is M1 off, M1 on, M2 off, M2 on. And again, when you click on our things, you want to make sure that the blend sheet or the parameter type is set to the right one. So this one is going to be set to M1. This one is set to M2. Saturation is going to be set to sat, and hue is going to be set to hue. And then within here, sat 0, sat 1, and then hue shift 0, and hue shift 1. So, with all of that done successfully, and making sure that everything is set up properly, our last step here will be, oh, there we go. Caught one right there. Make sure that that is set to state. So state, state, and then each one of the different parameters up there. And I'll set that to 0. The last step, of course, is going to be editing our menu so that it reflects that. So I believe for this one, it was 1 back. So it should be over into the menu. Should be over inside of emission section. And then inside of here, we can actually change it. So the intensity, we're going to go ahead and change this to saturation. And then it's a radial puppet. So this will basically go from 0 to 1. This one right here is going to be the hue. The hue is going to be a radial puppet too. So we're going to change that to radial puppet. We're going to go to parameter, hue. Actually, for this case, this doesn't go down here. It goes inside of the rotation. So I'll quickly correct that down here as well. So intensity is going to be saturation. I'll just make it saturation for transparency's sakes. And then right here, we have our 2 emissions. So this is going to be a toggle. It's going to turn ERM1 on. And then this one will be a toggle and it'll turn ERM2 on. So with all of that done, if yours looks like mine does, we should be almost ready to go. One last thing I want to check is by default, they will be turned off. Perfect. So, hello, it's Pinky from the future. Basically, for older Poiyomi versions, this did work, but for the newer ones, you're actually gonna have to do this a little bit differently. So in this case, with the M1 off, I'm going to hit the delete key, and we're gonna go to our avatar again, hit record, and as you can see over in this section here, we're going to quickly go over to our special effects, go to our emission, and since this is the first one, we're going to set this to 0, hit stop, Control C, go over to the on. We're going to delete that, Control V it, and we're going to set it to 0.5 in this example. And then we basically do that for this as well. So delete this, hit the record. We're going to go to the emission again, set this one to 0. We're going to copy it, go back to M1 on, delete this, press paste, and set that to 0.5 as well. So for the other older versions of Poiyomi, this may work, but for the version I'm specifically using, I will need to do this instead. And then all you need to do is go to your special effects, enable both of them so that they're both on, and then just set the emission strength to 0 so that it's visually not on. Now, with this done, if I hit enter play mode, go to the scene, go to the emissions, and I enable one of the emissions, you'll see it works. Then we can change the hue of the emission. And finally, the saturation. So at full saturation, it's super bright. At lower saturations, it kind of fades in a little bit more. And then, as shown before, there's the alternative texture, and you can change the hue on those, as well as the saturation on those. So, with that completely done now, we can go back to our avatar, go over to the menus, or rather go over to the FX layers. So in the parameters, we're going to go through here, quickly check if there's any we need to delete. So alternative emission map, we can get rid of that. The emission Y, we can get rid of that. Emission X, we can get rid of that. Emission intensity, we can get rid of that. And we've just created and deleted some of these parameters. And finally, if we go to our FX layer, we can scroll down to our two emission things, and we can go ahead and hit the delete key on each of these to delete them. And then the piercing thing as well, we can hit delete. And so now basically we have all of it done inside of this blend tree. And I'm going to quickly just capitalize the T for personal reasons. And so with that done, all we need to do next is go to the VRChat SDK, select our avatar. I'm going to call this very optimized hyaenid. And then as you can see some things here, autofix. So this is going to quickly crunch compress some of the textures down.